Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to the channel. Say I've got the 1916 Singer 3115 back on the workbench here. I bought these parts for it about a year, maybe more than a year ago. It's a different needle plate, a larger feed dog, and a larger presser foot. And I just had them laying around. I didn't put them on a machine. Kind of hanging on to this machine until I find a vintage, one of the old original wood tables to put it on. But I just made these changes, and I have a T90 nylon thread, a size 20 needle, and I've got a few pieces of leather here, and I just want to see how this goes. This is going to be the maximum you can do on this machine because the presser foot is all the way up and it is just fitting under there. I don't even know if there's enough give here if there's enough slack in the presser foot here for this to work, because the feed dogs have to come up and move it ahead. But let's see what happens. I've got my belt is a little loose. Whoa. Well, a little bit of a wild start, but I think that was my fault because the belt is a little loose on my little test bench here. I can just swap out whatever machine I want to put on here, and then I just tighten up the belt. So let's give that one more shot. Might have to scale back to a smaller needle, actually. Okay, either that or I just got to get used to it. You're seeing it for the first time. I didn't try to do this off camera at all because I don't really have a lot of leather laying around. So I thought, well, let's just go for it. Well, it worked out good. The stitches are nice and tight. A little erratic there as far as if you're working on something small. You'd have to probably come around corners just running the hand wheel by hand, but it's a nice tight stitch and it works, and it's amazing. I thought these larger feed dogs were really going to mar up the leather, but that's the back side, and it doesn't look bad at all. So I guess I'm gonna continue on with this video and show you how I put these in and what it took. Say I've had these parts for quite a while now. I got these online. They were intended for a different Singer 3115, and I just never got around to putting them in. What I have is a different needle plate. I'll hold these up a little better once I get them out. I've got a different needle plate. It's a graduated plate, you can see here. And much more aggressive feed dogs here. But they should fit right in here. I know they do. I already had them in. I had to do a little grinding, but I'll show you all about that as we proceed along here, and a much bigger foot. Now bear in mind, if you do this procedure because you want things to feed a little bit better, I think you're going to be limited to a size 20 needle. That's what I have here. You might be able to sneak in a size 22. You don't want too large of a needle. It'll end up hitting the hook down below. You want the hook to just catch the thread. You don't want to start hitting the needle. So let's proceed here, and I'll show you how you go about doing this. It's pretty simple except for one fact that we'll talk about here in a minute. Go ahead and just see if I can keep my hand out of the way. Take the original foot off, get that out of the way. And pretty simple, basic, a couple screws. Here we go. couple screws have to come out for the original needle plate. Now I had all of this apart when I cleaned all this up, and so everything's going to come out pretty easy on mine. You might have to take and just take a, I forget what you call it now, but just tap on these screw heads to get them loose. You could just take a piece of metal, like a blunt piece of metal like a punch, and just tap on these screw heads a few times. You don't want to end up breaking them off. Well, generally what would happen is you wouldn't break this entire screw off. What would happen is you'd probably break like half the screw off, and that's going to be getting a little dangerous here. I'm leaving the needle in. And then these two screws would come out that hold the, I'm blocking like everything here on you guys. Let me reach around here. These two screws have to come out. Hopefully you can see those okay. I'm gonna have to block the shot. You know what I'm doing. That screw comes out, this screw comes out. These are relatively inexpensive. Okay, and then when you get this part, this new feed dog, you're going to see that this is ground somewhat from the factory, but they didn't take off enough. So you're going to have, if you want to attempt this, you're going to have the ability to grind a little bit more of this off and polish it. I've just got a small 4-inch grinder that just sits on top of a table out in my garage. It's pretty easy to modify this. Continue on here and I'll show you what I was talking about. If you don't grind this piece, when you go to put it in and it goes through its motions, it's going to hit right back here, this casting right behind the screw hole for the needle plate. So I'm going to continue on here. When you tighten down these screws that hold in the feed dogs, move your hand wheel so your feed dogs are down and towards the front. It'll make it easier to get at this one. And also go ahead and take out the thumb screw that holds your foot on. That'll give you a little more room to work on the back side. Okay, and here's the needle plate. Another thing you're going to notice, I'm going to get another screw in here, is close that up, is that the feed dogs on your machine, if your machine makes a pretty big stitch, I'm going to adjust mine all the way. This is the 1916 Singer 3115, if I forgot to mention that, is when, okay, these aren't hitting anything now because obviously I ground those parts before putting them in. It gives you a larger hole in the needle plate. It's raised up a little bit higher, and you're going to have to grind a little bit possibly on the back of these teeth and on this tooth right here, just depending on how big of a stitch your 3115 will make. And see how there's extra room here. Let me move this. I'm going to move it to the shortest stitch, which is almost nothing. It's like when they designed this, they left a little too much room in the front and not quite enough in the back. So you've got a lot bigger footprint coming down on that material you're working on, and a lot bigger feed dog. And if you don't know, if you get a 3115, I've bought these machines before, the needle was completely rusted away. You can't determine what size you need. Well, for the 3115, this is the modern needle that you would buy. Look for this right here. And the original needle that these took, maybe you'll get lucky and there'll be some in the cabinet drawers when you buy second hand 3115. It's a 16 by 87. I just mention this every time because there's a lot of 3115s out there. People might pick one up and they don't know what needle to use. And I'll see if I can find a link on the internet for these pieces. This was the name that was on the box, and I think I had to wait a while to get these, but I ordered them in the summer and waiting doesn't bother me. I don't have time to put them in till winter anyway. So alright, if you decide you want to do that to your machine, that's how you go about doing it. Just keep in mind you're going to have to grind a few parts. That's not a big deal for me. So there's the upgrade, all done. Alright, as always, subscribe and like the video if you learned something here, and check the links below. Thanks for watching.